A young boy living in a mountainside town fears that his father might be a brutal killer. But exactly how many secrets is his family hiding from him? China Miéville's novella, This Census-Taker, is the book I'm reviewing on this episode of SFF180, and it proves that the new weird superstar has lost none of his ability to captivate and unnerve. Hello everybody, Thomas here, and welcome back. Thank you for joining me again for this episode of SFF180. As with all of Miéville's work, the story here begins with a city, this one sprawling out along the slopes of a pair of very steep hills or maybe small mountain peaks, the gap between spanned by a bridge. Now on one of these peaks, in what's considered a less desirable neighborhood, there lives a small boy with his parents. And the story that unfolds will be narrated by the man the boy will become, looking back at a very frightening and very formative time in his life. Now, the boy's mother sort of spends her days gardening and then going into the lower city on these sojourns where she's accompanied by the boy and engages in personal business. That's the kind of thing that's just way above the understanding of a small child. Now, his father is a keymaker. Despite the fact that they don't like him very much, citizens come to him. They give him all manner of esoteric requests, and he manufactures a key for them. The keys aren't necessarily meant to unlock doors. Now, if there is a city dump, it's too far away from the family home to be convenient, and so the mother and father dispose of their trash by pitching it into a deep hole in a nearby cave. This will be important. The father has another aspect to his character that the boy discovers quite by accident. He's a killer. Mostly, the boy only sees him luring unsuspecting animals to him and then killing them with total dispassion. He then carries their bodies into the cave and pitches them into the hole. It isn't even as if the man is particularly sociopathic. It's as if he does what he does just out of simple compulsion or even habit, doing the deed but not necessarily taking any particular pleasure in it. Now, the novella itself begins with the boy rushing into town in a blind panic. He has just witnessed a terrible domestic incident between his mother and his father, and in his childlike confusion and fear, he's got the details a little bit hazy. First, he's pretty sure that his mother has just killed his father. Then later on, as things become more clear to him, he reverses those roles. The police in town go up to the house to investigate, but they're perfectly satisfied by the father's explanation. The boy demands that they check the hole in the cave, but the police rebuke him, and one of them even gives him a spanking, and not even his father has delivered corporal punishment to him before. Still, some of the citizens believe the boy, and the father becomes an even bigger pariah among them than he already was. The boy also finds brief refuge among a small gang of street urchins who protect him for as long as they can until the boy at last has to go back home. Now, the father's very kind, and he's even more attentive to his parental duties, being far more doting towards the boy than his rather emotionally frigid mother ever was. And he seems genuinely and deeply hurt by the fact that the boy suspects him of a terrible crime. Now, through the boy's eyes, there's a deeply sinister cast to this paternal kindness, but the father presents a written note from the mother as proof that she left town of her own volition in a big hurry. Either scenario is plausible, but now word arrives that someone is coming to pay a visit to the household, to interview both the boy and the father. And when this happens, what other secrets might come to light? This Census-Taker is all about the way in which the adult world is alien and inaccessible to children up to a certain point in their lives, and about the terror and helplessness that takes you over when you realize that your very home, the place where you should be safest of all, may pose the greatest possible danger to you. The man narrating his own childhood memories does so mostly in the third person, but then sometimes he'll abruptly shift into second person, as if he can only reach certain fragments of memory by either bringing himself closer or removing himself in order to gain a different perspective on events, by creating a sense of distance. But what he desperately needs is to understand, even though he knows that understanding may never come fully. Now, the story is curiously at its weakest when Miéville adds complexity to his world, like the character of the census-taker and hints of far-reaching official business that are only kind of sketched into the narrative. Now, they provide just enough clues to a larger scope, a larger world outside of the immediate story that we know must exist, governing bodies of immense power. Now, it's understandable that to a small child, especially one who is doing his best to process the inexplicable absence of a parent or even the possible loss of a parent, the colossal adult machinery that runs all of our lives is absolutely incomprehensible and frightening. But the story is, in the end, narrated from an adult perspective, and if Miéville felt the need to do the kind of world building that he ordinarily does in a full novel, in a story like this, then it would have helped matters if there was a bit more clarity in the execution there. As it is, certain details that seem like they should be really, really important are hazy. This Census-Taker is best appreciated as a story about a young child facing the full potential of adult evil, and dealing with having to question his notions of things like family and responsibility and duty and courage for the very first time. The hints of a larger story beyond this one, though far from fully formed, are at least tantalizing. And it may be the case that Miéville intends this unsettling novella to be an appetizer for bigger stories yet to come. But even if it's not the full-length epic novel that China Miéville's fans have been aching for ever since Embassy Town, we're gonna have to wait until fall of 2016 for that one, this Census-Taker does more than enough to whet fans' appetites and to get us thinking about what our memories of our own lives may or may not reveal to us. And that is all I have time for on this episode of SFF180. Remember, everybody, the most important thing, these are reviews. You're not always going to agree with me, but if you enjoyed watching, please hit that like button, share this video far and wide with your SFF reading friends, and above all, please subscribe to the channel. That is how SFF180 grows. And until I see all of you next time, happy reading.